Tonight's episode of the Girl Talk Sunday podcast is dedicated to my sister in love, Barbara Jean Owens Douglas. May you rest in eternal peace. Love you, sissy. I'll see you on the other side.
She worth it. 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 Worth it.
God bless you and welcome to the Girl Talk Sunday podcast. I am your host, Sandy Best Life Jones, and y'all know I'm just absolutely delighted to be here with you tonight. It's been a few weeks since we've been live, but it's really, really good to be with you again. Listen, I just got through telling my guest, Dee Hevelin, that there's no one else that I would want to have this conversation with. There's just nobody else. And I'm going to tell you why when I bring her out, because I want her to hear why. But I've been looking forward to this show for weeks now, and I'm so delighted that you're here with us tonight. If this is your first time watching the Girl Talk Sunday podcast, please put that in the chat so I know. I want to make sure that I greet all of my first-time guests. And if you've been here before and you've come back for more, I'm so glad to see you. Amen. Amen. Listen, I am Sandy Best Life Jones, and I am here to help women just like you discover the purpose and the plan for their life through honoring God, honoring your body, and owning your worth. Yes, we are a faith-based platform, but all who come in peace are welcome. All right, y'all, I need to do what I always forget to do at the beginning of the show, which is make sure that I shared the live because I usually forget. And I think I already did it. Yes, I did. So if you are watching right now, do me a huge favor. Like the video, share the video. And if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss anytime I go live or anytime I upload a new episode of either Girl Talk Sunday or Fridays by the Fire. I trust and pray that everyone is doing well today. I had such a great day today. Church was great from beginning to end, like from Sunday school to the benediction. It was good. And I like to start my Sunday that way. So I hope that you were able to start your Sunday in a way that inspired you, just like I'm inspired right now. My guest today, Dee Hevelin Pulliam, affectionately known as Dee Dee. You're going to hear me calling her Dee Dee. So this is probably the last time. Well, I'm going to read her bio. But after that, you're not going to hear me say Dee Hevelin anymore. I'm just going, she Dee Dee to me. So she going to be Dee Dee today. She is such a phenomenal young woman. I tell her this every time we talk, that she inspires me greatly. And we're going to get caught up on what she's doing in just a few minutes. But I want to read her bio because I want you to know who we have in our midst today, to just remind you that age has nothing to do with brilliance. Brilliance has nothing to do with age. And we all, in our own way, are brilliant. It's just a matter of, how we choose to allow God to use that brilliance to bless the world. And the Heavenly has decided to use her brilliance to bless families and marriages in her community, and that's why I'm just so proud of her. So let's read this bio because it's just so good. It's so good. The Heavenly Pulliam is a licensed marriage and family therapist, educator, and diversity and inclusion consultant. She is passionate about helping people experience greater alignment between the life they are living and the life they envision for themselves. The Heavenly completed her Master of Science in Family Therapy at the University of Boston, Massachusetts in 2016. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it was that long ago. That was 10 years ago. We gave her a going away party and everything, and has a private practice based in Seattle, Washington. De Havilland takes a systemic, multicultural, and justice oriented approach to working with individuals, couples, teens, and families. She specializes in addressing issues of anxiety, trauma, and relationship stressors. And you know how, most every business has a vision statement and a mission statement, and De Havilland's business has the same, but she also has a hope statement. And I want to read her hope statement. It says, I hold a deep desire and expectation for you, your partner, and your family to experience the changes you want to see in your lives. And I work diligently to instill that same sense of hope and expectation in you. So it's not enough to hope that you can be better. Sometimes you got to go get help to couple with that hope. And De Havilland is using her life to provide that hope and that help for families in her community. And I love that about her. I think that you're going to love her too. And as you know, right now during Girl Talk Sunday, this season of Girl Talk Sunday, which is season 5, this is our homecoming season. And what I mean by homecoming is coming home to self means choosing wisely, choosing differently, choosing what works for you, and releasing the rest to God for healing. And tonight's topic is all about some of the toxic traits that we can sometimes inherit from our mothers, that our mothers may not be even aware that they're passing down to us. We may not even be aware that we've inherited them until years later in our life, when we start to notice that, mama used to respond to things that way. Mama used to do things that way. Mama used to accept that kind of behavior from people. I wonder if that's where I got that from. That's the revelation that I had in my own life at the age of 50. And it wasn't until I was 53 and I lost my dad to dementia and Parkinson's disease that my mother and I actually sat down and had a conversation. And she told me her life story. She told me her life story. And that's when I could finally see myself in her. It was eye opening. It was life changing. It was everything that I needed to know to be able to forgive and accept my mother for who she is, as she is. And at the same time that I love, honor, and respect her, I then knew that it was okay for me to take a different direction with my life and do something different. And so De Havilland is here to help us unpack what that doing something different might look like. So I want to bring her out. She is in the green room. There she is. Hi, Dee Dee.
Hello.
Welcome back to the Girl Talk Sundays sofa.
Yes. Good to be here. Good to be here. Yes, you're welcome to call me Dee Dee, and that's what you know me as, but so grateful to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for agreeing to come and be with us tonight. This is a really important topic to me because like I was saying, I had my own epiphany about my mother 5 years ago. It'll be 5 years in November.
Mm.
No, October actually. When I lost my dad and I flew to Arizona to be with my mother for the service and to be with my family. And she and I went to breakfast the day after the service.
Mm.
And we had the most important conversation that we have ever had in our lives as mother and daughter. And my mother began to tell me her life story. And she shared with me how her mother, for whatever reason, could not take care of her. And my mother was days old when someone in their neighborhood took her in, days old, took her in and raised her. This couple raised her as their own and they took care of her until she was an adult. And she just kind of gave me the backstory of how she was raised and how finding out that those were not her real parents affected her. And
Mm.
then her approach to life and the way she would show up in life and the way she responded to life started making sense to me. And some of the um, behavior that she had modeled in front of me that I inherited and was modeling myself to my own daughter, it started to make sense.
Mhm.
So that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because I want to talk about, is that something that's usually unconscious when we're modeling that behavior? Was she modeling what she saw? Or was she just showing me, who she was from a conscious standpoint, or can it be both things? And can the traits that our mothers model to us and pass down to us, can they be genetic? Or is it always a case of this is just what she saw, and so you're gonna get what she saw? What does that
Mhm.
all that look like?
Yeah, yeah. Um, First, it's really powerful just to hear your story and these moments that you had with your mom, to hear her story and how hearing her story helped to reshape the way that you saw your own and what you were living into. Um, I I use a lot of different modalities, but narrative therapy is a big part of my work. And so thinking about how we tell our story about our identity and what it means, and whether or not what we're living into is lining up with our values versus these boxes and shoulds that we're
Mhm,
put into is a big part of the kind of deconstructing work that needs to happen for us to break certain patterns.
mhm,
Um, I think your question of like, is it conscious? I think when we start actually having time to reflect on our story and
mhm,
the models that we've had around us, it becomes clearer, like the experience that you had. But initially, I think we're just all trying to figure out, how do I feel safe? How do I feel connected? How do I make sure that I feel regulated in my nervous system?
mhm,
And that becomes these reactive patterns that we keep using once we find something that does work in our initial context. So I think with what you shared, like there's things that your mom probably learned about what it means to understand herself, what it means to understand her place in relationships. So the sense of like belonging, the sense of, am I lovable? Am I wanted? Um, and she learned a way of navigating that, her way of surviving. And you got to see that example of how she survived. Now the question becomes, do those same tools work with the context that you're in? Because if you're in a different place, it might actually start causing problems instead of helping. Um, so there's some initial thoughts that come to mind. And the genetic part, there are, studies that, and this is not my area of expertise at all. But there are studies that show that when we are in our mother's womb, the stress that they're under does impact, our development as well, right? So our cortisol levels, how sensitive our nervous system is to certain things, how disposed we are to anxiety and depression, those sorts of things do start to percolate even in the womb based on what our mothers are going through. But at the same time, there's this thing called epigenetics, where it's a combination of you might have this foundation in your genes and in your DNA, but whether or not it expresses itself partially depends on the environment that you're in and your experience. So it's still, even then, it's not a guarantee that you are now, programmed to be a certain way. There's still a lot of life experience and a lot of development that continues to happen where we can keep reshaping things and keep breaking patterns.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that about what's happening in the womb while our mothers are pregnant with us, because I don't know if, I won't say all women, but some women really understand that our stress while we're pregnant,
Hmm.
it affects the child too. I don't know if we really understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we did, we would be really careful
Hmm.
about the situations that we put ourselves in while we're pregnant, because it does make a difference. It makes a tremendous difference for that
Hmm.
unborn child. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, it does make a difference. And I think context matters. I think that um, the amount of choice someone has and how, like sometimes I think it's this balance of we do need to make choices that are going to benefit ourselves.
Mhm,
We need to make choices that would benefit an unborn child, right?
mhm,
Um, but some things are out of our control at the same time. Like, so there are some things that, you know, you, right now our world is in quite a chaotic space, and I'm grateful to be in a place where I can, still maintain my usual routine, but
mhm.
complain about gas prices, while others are in a space where their homes have been destroyed, where they don't have access to food in the same way, where resources are just very limited. So, um, so yes, I think there's for depending on what resources we have available to us, as much as we can, we do need to be mindful that it is impacting the child. And I think the other pieces around what expresses itself once the child is born, that environmental factor, that experience, is really important to also name, because we are human, we'll make mistakes, but there's still room for change and growth. Even the way our minds develop, there's this thing called neuroplasticity, where we are constantly making new connections in our brain to learn new patterns, new ways of being, new ways of thinking. So no one point is going to make us broken forever.
Mhm,
You know,
mhm,
there's
mhm.
always room for resilience and change and healing to take place. But as much as we can, as much as is in our power, yeah, we do
Mhm.
want to be mindful.
Yeah. So I was so excited to start this interview. I forgot to ask you the question that I ask all of my guests that join me on the Girl Talk Sunday sofa. And I've already told you what Dee Dee does, but I want you to tell us, Dee Evelyn, from your own perspective, why you do the work that you do.
Mm. Um, I love being a therapist. I love just being able to sit and hear people's stories and to create a space that's safe and non-judgmental, but a space where people can see themselves in a new way. So I um, I think a lot of my job is just being human with another human, so it doesn't feel like work. It just feels
Mhm,
like, okay, we get to sit and have a conversation. I get to know you and your story a bit more. But I
mhm,
also get to hold up a mirror. Like, you told me this is what you value. You told me this is what you want to live into. Where is the disconnect between where we are right now and this vision that you're painting for me? Um,
mhm,
I think it also is a space where I get to hear people's strengths and resilience when they don't recognize that either. And once again, holding that mirror, not just for the okay, I'm challenging you, but also the did you see what you just did? Like, do you realize how powerful that is that you were able to accomplish this given all the things that you named in your story that have been so difficult? So I love that about my job, of just that honoring space to be entered into somebody's life like that. Um, but I also, I'm currently working on finishing up my doctoral program. And in that space, I'm also just really passionate about Black women's wellness, and especially in
Mhm.
the workplace, and how do we shift culture in that environment so that there is psychological safety, there is inclusion, there is a sense that um, just wellness in that space. I think, and I can go into more details about that, but I think that's just another part of my my passion that I'm getting into right now.
Yeah. And you have successfully defended your dissertation, correct?
I have successfully defended my dissertation. That feels really good to just be
Yes,
done
I
with
know,
that.
because I reached out to you last and you were like, I got a lot on my plate right
Yes,
now.
let's get this done.
But when I reached
Yes.
out this year, you said, oh, I did it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
successfully defended my dissertation. I'm
Mhm.
just so proud of you. I am
Thank
so
you.
proud of you. I cannot wait to see you walk across that stage and
Thank
get what you have earned. You have invested in yourself. You have allowed God to give you the grace and the strength to do it. And I'm just really, really proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It means a lot, you know. You've been in my
Yes.
life since I was a teeny bopper in,
Yes.
in church, so I'm grateful.
So I want to get into women and within the family dynamic and some of the roles that we take on that we're not even really aware that we're taking on because we might be modeling behavior that we saw from our mother. I know for me, I had middle child syndrome really bad. I don't even know if that's really a thing. You could tell me if it is. But I just never could get enough attention from my parents. I could never get enough affection from my parents. I never felt seen, didn't feel heard, rarely
Mhm.
felt loved. I felt like the love that I did receive from my parents was transactional. I had to do something to
Mm,
earn their love. That's how I felt as a child. Now, as a grown up, I see what was happening.
yeah.
And so I was the peacemaker of the family. I always wanted everybody to get along. I always wanted everybody to be loved and feel loved. But that's a heavy burden for a child to take on. So
Mhm.
I have listed these roles that we can take on as women in the family from a young age. The first one is the fixer, the peacemaker, the overachiever, the invisible one, and the caretaker. So I
Mm,
just want you to touch on each one and why we tend to develop these attributes sometimes as children and then take that into adulthood and talk a little bit about how it can show up in our adulthood and in our relationships. So let's start with the fixer. It says always cleaning up everyone else's mess. Where
mm,
does that derive from usually?
mhm. I think there's kind of two things on my mind when I think about this list.
Mhm,
One, just to back up a little bit, I'm a marriage and family therapist,
mhm,
and I see individuals within that, but that means the theories I work from are systemic, right? So I
mhm,
think about how all of the moving pieces work together to
mhm,
create a problem and to maintain it.
mhm,
This idea that everybody is contributing relationally to how things are functioning, right?
mhm,
And that
mhm,
even beyond the family and the relationships, there are these larger systems in our communities, in our society, in our politics that are also playing a part into where these problems come from and how they're maintained, right? So
mhm.
because of that, it's really hard to pinpoint whose fault it is, right?
Right,
Because
right.
there's so many moving pieces. Um, and I also love what you said in the as you were some of the posts that you made about this conversation, how you don't want it to be about like blaming the parents,
Right.
and
Mhm.
moms get a real bad rep. It used to
Yes.
be like they used to blame mom. They used to blame mom for schizophrenia. Like it was the mom's fault that their kids
Ooh.
had schizophrenia. Things like that were just
Mhm.
like a part of the culture. And
Yeah.
so I think I just want to just name those things as like a
Mhm,
disclaimer of just
mhm.
how
Yeah.
my mind works around it. And I
Mhm,
think the other piece is that I think a lot about attachment,
mhm,
and some of the messages that you were describing as like the middle child, or as we're trying to figure out where do I belong, Am I loved? What do I have to do to get loved or to be loved? Like those things, um, those start at a really, really young age. Like when we are babies, we
Mhm.
are taking in how our caregivers are responding to our cries. And we're learning that I can depend on people. I'm learning how consistent they are, how safe they are. Um, and I'm learning about myself of if I'm wanted or chosen or loved in those relationships, right?
Mhm.
And it only takes one really good enough parent for a child to learn that I can have security
Mhm.
in these spaces, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
For the fixer, I think that, it could come from different parts of that attachment space. It could be that, you know, I have to be useful in order to be accepted and
Mhm.
loved. I
Mhm.
have to be, I have to make sure I am not a burden. I have to be out of the way in order to be accepted, in order for people to have room for me or space for me, right? And
Mhm.
so I'm learning that there's a lot of work I need to do to make other people feel good, in order for me to feel good and for me
Mhm.
to feel safe that the relationship can make space for me, right?
Mhm.
And so from an attachment perspective, that might look a little bit more on the anxious side of things of I need to do a lot to make sure that once again, I'm regulating myself by making
Mhm.
sure I'm regulating other people around me. Um, or doing what I can to feel like I'm making them be in a good see me in a good light or be in a good standing with me.
Mhm.
Um, I'm gonna pause there because I named a lot, but
Thank you. Thank you for that. That makes sense. And I like how you said, um, there's the way we create and maintain a problem is systemic.
Mhm,
It can be systemic. I never thought about it that way, but it takes action on our part to maintain a problem.
mhm,
Just like it takes action on our part to heal a problem or
mhm,
to remove a problem or a habit from our lives. It takes action for both. It takes action to maintain it and to heal it. Is that what you're
mhm.
saying?
Yeah, yeah. So initially, like I said, the attachment stuff, those that model of relationships, those stories I tell myself from a young age about
Mhm.
how relationships work and where I fit into them.
Mhm.
Initially, like, yeah, I'm a baby. I don't
Mhm.
really,
Right.
I'm just taking in the world and trying to make sense of it, right? And kids have this black or white thinking. It's like either or, and it's very simplistic. I don't get the nuance until I'm older, right? And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
then that's we get when we get into the breaking the patterns part, it's that I need to recognize that every time I live into this idea that I need to be needed in order
Mhm.
to be connected to people, or I need to, um, people only want me in their lives when I'm doing something for them, right?
Mhm.
If that's the
Mhm.
story I'm living into and telling myself over and over again, then I'm going to probably not have a whole lot of boundaries. I'm probably going to say yes as much as I can, even when I'm overextending myself,
Mhm.
right? And I'm probably not going to receive the same thing from other people because they actually do have boundaries, right?
Mhm.
Or they are taking
Okay.
advantage of a situation where they're getting a lot and not having to put a whole lot of effort back into the relationship, right? So
Mhm.
now I'm in this kind of self fulfilling prophecy. I don't believe I matter in relationships unless I'm playing a role for other people. I give, and I don't ask for anything because I don't want to be a burden to them. They take what I give freely,
Mhm.
but I also don't receive it in the same level. I
Mhm.
feel alone still. I feel taken advantage of. I feel
Mhm.
resentful, right? But I don't stop. So I never get to see if I don't stop acting in this way, will
Mhm.
people stay? I never get to challenge that belief and I never get to see
Ooh, that's
the other
good.
side. So I'm a part of maintaining it, and people
Mhm.
are just playing along with the role that I am offering them in our relationships.
Ooh, that is so good, Dee Dee. That is so good. People will benefit from your brokenness. Usually, if they too are broken in some way and they just don't know it or they haven't accepted it or they haven't acknowledged it. But if you keep giving and giving and giving because you feel like I have to do it this way in order to be seen, in order to be heard, in order to be loved, and people continue to take that, even though they can clearly see you don't have a boundary around that, and that's where that behavior is coming from. There's a benefit to people who will
Mhm.
continue to take from you as long as you are giving, because
Mhm.
you don't have a boundary around that. That, wow, that's really
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, let's touch a little bit on the peacemaker. Avoids conflict at all costs.
Mhm.
What's going on there?
Yeah. I think you'll hear a similar theme for all of these because
Mhm.
I'm gonna keep
Yeah.
leaning into this idea of attachment or this idea of I'm telling myself a story,
Mhm.
um, and then I don't have opportunities to challenge that story, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So with the peacemaker, the story is, I I need to keep the peace at all costs, right? Like you said, which
Mhm.
means that I can't I I can, but I feel this tension when I want to disagree. I feel this tension when something's bothering me. And
Mhm.
instead of being vocal about it, I'm going to be silent because I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want somebody to be mad at me. I don't want to experience rejection. I don't want to feel unsafe in this relationship, right? I think the other way of thinking about the other piece of attachment is that we learn these strategies for how do I feel safe again. Um, so if I feel like peace is being disrupted, I'm going to feel like that's a threat to the relationship, right? And we know when we think about trauma and things like that and not feeling safe, it activates our fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, right? So this might be considered more of a fawning response, right? If I make people feel comfortable around me, if I keep smiling, if I keep acting like everything's okay, if I keep seeming like I'm on their side, even when something's not quite right for me, it just helps me to feel safer in that situation. And safe doesn't always mean lions and tigers and bears. It just might mean you'll still be my friend. You'll still want to hang out with me. You'll still want me around. Um, is what's going to make me feel like silencing my own needs is worth it.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense for the peacemaker. The overachiever, trying to earn love through performance. And I know there's a running theme in each one.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
touch on that. The
Yeah,
overachiever.
yeah. I think, yeah, the running theme is like there's a need for
Yes.
connection. There's a need for to feel lovable and wanted, and so learning that if I'm productive, if I'm achieving, um, if I'm going above and beyond, that's where I'll experience some acceptance. Um,
Mhm.
and and once again, this is like it feels like a very complicated conversation because it's when I say it's like problems are created and maintained in relationships and systems, that can be that, you have a family that really emphasizes academics, really emphasizes, getting the awards or, being number one. Um, but some of
Mhm.
it can be culturally significant too. Like I grew up hearing like you got to work 10 times as hard as a black woman to be considered just as good, right? Um,
Mhm.
so there's like racial dynamics, there are gender dynamics, there are all of these messages that we're trying to confront as well, even beyond the family, that are telling us this is what you need to do in order to be taken seriously, in order to be respected, in order to be seen as competent. Um,
Mm.
so there's so many different factors, but once again, it all comes down to in this world, in these relationships, how do I feel safe? How do I feel loved and connected? Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. And the last one is the caretaker. Oh, no, no. I'm sorry. I skipped one. The invisible one
Mm-hmm.
disappears to avoid chaos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, I mean, this feels like a lot of fear.
Mhm.
And even in that description of just like avoiding chaos, it's almost like a more anxiety driven version of the peacemaker, right? I don't want to rock the boat. Also, I just don't want to be seen at all. Like I don't want um, to be a problem, but I don't feel safe in the midst of whatever the chaos is, right? And so um, because of the work that I do, I work with a lot of I probably work with anxiety and trauma. And
Mhm.
so I hear a lot of, adults now, but
Mhm.
talk about childhoods where they had to learn to be really hyper vigilant. They had to learn how to really read the adults in the room, to be able to
Mhm.
read like what are the emotions that they're expressing? Are they in a good mood today? Are they safe to be around? Is something going to lash off, something unexpected going to happen? And one of the ways they coped with it was making themselves as small as possible.
Mhm.
So in adulthood, they have to like relearn like how do I take up space again? How do I feel okay being seen in a safe relationship where letting my guard down, allowing my friends to know who I am, what I enjoy,
Mhm.
what makes me upset or frustrated, like learning that that can be a safe space with the right people, even if early experiences were not safe.
Right.
So that invisible brings up for me a more of a kind of a fear-based stance, and once again, that can be modeled by the type of environment that was created with your guardians.
Mhm.
It can be modeled by watching how your parents navigate situations, how they kind of their body language and their mannerisms kind of make themselves small, or being told like be seen and not heard and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of different ways that that can be shaped.
Yeah. I like how you said, um, you talked about reading the room. And we hear that a lot now. We hear a lot about read the room, read the room. I've been reading the room since I was a kid
Mhm.
because, and I didn't know it as a child, but my mother had seasonal depression.
Mm.
So living here in Washington State in the wintertime was really, really hard
Yeah.
for her, which is why she retired and moved to Arizona where it's sunny all the time.
Mhm.
But as a child, you don't know that. All I knew was I'm not sure which mama is coming home from work today. So I
Mhm.
need to read the room. So, and I developed a system where if she parked a certain way, I knew everything was going to be
Mhm.
good. If she parked a different way, I knew to go to my room and stay in my room until she told me to come out. So
Yeah.
I've been reading for a long time, not knowing that there were some other things going on with my mom that I knew nothing about until I was grown.
Mhm.
So yeah, I can resonate with the invisible one needing to read the mood in the room to
Mhm.
avoid chaos at all costs. I deeply resonate with that.
Yeah, yeah. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of a superpower to be that attuned to people
Mhm.
around
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Um, but once again, once out of that situation, and once again, safety is a big part of all this. If um, and safety, once again, emotional safety, like it doesn't always have to be the worst of the worst that comes to
Mhm.
mind.
Mhm.
But when we're adults, we have to evaluate, okay, that made sense. Like that was a superpower as a child,
Mhm.
right? Like you
Mhm.
didn't have a whole lot of resources, you didn't have a whole lot of power, you didn't have a whole lot to go off of in order to change your environment or make things different, or you know, you didn't know the education around mental health and how to plug into resources that might have been helpful. You just knew, okay, if I can pay attention to
Mhm.
how mom parked or how these mannerisms change,
Mhm.
I know how to be helpful or out of the way, or I know how um, to approach her in a way that's gonna like make me feel once again safe, connected, loved, all those things in that moment, right?
Mhm.
The problem comes in when we
Yeah.
try to use that same
Yeah.
theory in our adult relationships. We may not be
Mhm.
as accurate at reading people as we think we were, as we thought we were as a kid, right? All of
Mhm.
a sudden, it's
Mhm.
like, oh, I actually need to ask you how you're feeling. I can let you know I feel something shift or something's different, but I actually need to have a conversation about your inner world because I can't read minds. I can't predict the future. The worst case scenario
Mhm.
isn't always the only scenario possible, right? And so I have
Mhm.
to acknowledge how that superpower got me through a really difficult season in a certain part of my life, but I also need to
Mhm.
recognize time has passed and I'm in a different space and context now. I might need different tools. I can't just
Mhm.
automatically rely on the same ones I had back then.
Mhm. Yeah. Ooh. I'm thinking about my childhood as we're talking. I'm thinking about my dad who was active duty military when I was growing up. I had no idea my dad had been to Vietnam, was a Purple Heart recipient,
Mm,
had no idea what PTSD was, but I
yeah.
learned to read his mood too, because I just
Mhm,
never knew, if he would have an episode. So this conversation is reminding me of how I grew up and how I learned how to read people's moods and their mannerisms to see if it was safe for me
mhm,
connect with them. Now I
mhm,
see why I was doing that, and even as an adult, I do that. I
mhm,
watch people very carefully when I'm learning to get to know them, and now I
yeah,
understand why I do that. Yeah, and I really hope that the women that are watching tonight can see themselves in this conversation and begin to understand why they do some of the things that they do, why
mhm,
they respond to life the way they do, and how it could just be something from childhood that you've carried into adulthood that may or may not be working for you. It might
mm,
be working for some people,
yeah,
and then it may not work for some people. And we're going to talk about what you can do if it's not working for you and how you
mhm,
can begin to control um, some of the behaviors that you've inherited. This last one is the caretaker,
mhm,
raised to parent everybody.
yeah,
What's going
yeah,
on there?
yeah.
Mhm.
So, there's a term we use called a parentified child, where
Mm,
they
mhm,
essentially become a third parent, or maybe they just are the second parent, um,
mhm,
but they are asked to take on a role to either be emotionally supportive
mhm,
to one of the guardians, or they are really like task or like they're cooking, they're changing diapers, they're um, helping to raise their siblings, or sometimes even like pay bills or keep track of the calendar, sometimes being an interpreter for the family. There are so many different ways where kids are asked to, really show up for these responsibilities that are more geared towards adults, and it's hard because they're developmentally they're still a child, so
mhm,
they're not fully actually equipped or prepared for that role, so it's kind of a little bit of setting them up for failing that role.
mhm,
um, and then that does a lot with this sense of responsibility, but also this sense of guilt of not fully being able to live into that
mhm,
pressure that's being put on them at a young age.
mhm,
um, so it's yeah, so that caretaker role can show up in that way of like you've always been the one who was needed to
mhm,
step up and to be that responsible child.
mhm,
um, and even with that, I think there's also a piece of it where there's values underlying it too, of just like maybe you're just really compassionate, maybe you just really want to help, and you really want to be supportive to the people that you love, and you saw how your family was really into service, into caring for the community, and so you want to emulate that. So I
mhm,
do want to say like there's a spectrum of where this can show up, in one way, it's like it's in a way where it's developmentally outside of their scope and they're not ready for it. And so there's kind of a setup for failure thing that's hard. And in another way, maybe it was developmentally appropriate and a value that you learned and was modeled for you. And so it feels different. So, like you said, like if sometimes not a problem's only a problem if it is a problem. So, depending on where you are in that spectrum, it might feel like something that's very aligned with who you are, very aligned with what you value, or it
Mhm.
might feel like there's a lot of resentment and now it's difficult to show up for people because everything feels like a burden because it was always too much on you growing up.
Mhm. Mhm. So that's a great segue to my next question. What do you do when you've grown up feeling like this is in alignment with my values, but then you reach a point where you start to say, you know what, this feels unhealthy to me.
Hmm.
I think I really need to take a long, hard look at why I do what I do and the way that I do it. Am I doing it because this is really who I am? Or am I doing it because this is what I've seen all my life, but it's not really healthy? How can we start that process so we can make some changes?
Hmm. I think asking those questions is really helpful. I think I mean, obviously, I'm biased towards therapy and just having a space where you can think out loud
Mhm.
and hear yourself back to you, right?
Mhm.
So you can get a sense of where there's conflict between the things that you want and the things that you value versus the way that you're living and the choices that you're making. Um,
Mhm.
I think it also gives a space to take ownership
Mhm.
for where you do have agency now. Because once again, a lot of these things developed in childhood. We didn't have a lot of power, a lot of agency, a lot of choice. We just kind of worked with what we had, right?
Mhm. Right.
What we were born into. But as an adult, we have to learn how to reparent that younger child, like
Mhm.
meaning that as I am now the main adult in my life, right? I now have to meet the needs that I wish my parents would have met if they had the ability to do so,
Oh,
right?
that's good, Dee Dee. That is so good. Say that again. Say that again, because that was good.
I'm now the adult in my life who has to meet the needs that my parents were not able to meet for me when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So I can't keep saying, well, my parents didn't do X, Y, and Z. I
Mhm.
mean, we have to like honor that in the sense of I can have compassion for my little self,
Right.
right? For what she had to do to find her protest, to find her strategic way of navigating these dynamics, to find her safety,
Mhm.
right? But now I have to let that little girl in me know
Mhm.
I got this for us moving forward.
Yeah.
Moving forward, I am going to make choices that'll keep me safe. I
Mhm.
am going to offer myself that love and that choosing myself in a way, right?
Mhm.
And I'm going to check in with my values. First of all, what are my values?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then how do I want to honor them moving forward, right?
Mhm.
Taking ownership for what I can. Um, doesn't mean that there aren't other things outside of our control, but we can control ourselves. And I think the best, or I won't say the best way, the only way, but when we develop self-compassion, we also develop more compassion for other people. So as we
Mhm.
get curious about how did I learn to survive my childhood and get to where I am today, I can
Mhm.
also have compassion for how did my parents learn to survive their childhoods?
Yeah.
What did they try to pass down about what they learned as far as what it meant to survive and to be connected and to navigate relationships? Might not
Mhm.
have been the best lessons, but it was the ones that helped them to survive their situation, right?
Right.
I can
Right.
have compassion that I didn't do it perfectly, but I did what I had to do. Maybe I can understand other people's stories a little better too.
Oh, this is reminding me of when I used to work in the office. I'm a social worker for DSHS, and I work from home now, but I worked in the office for many, many years. And there was a family that came in that I will never, ever forget. The
Mm.
oldest child was 7. And then there was a baby that was about 9 months old. And then there was a toddler that was about 2 years old. And I just remember being at the front counter helping mama, apply for
Mm.
benefits and get what she needed. But I was watching the 7-year-old girl, and she had the baby on her hip
Mm.
and the toddler in the seat next to her, and she had her arm around the toddler, and the
Mm.
both of the little ones were boys, and big sister was taking care of them. And when I tell you that that little girl took care of those children like they were her own, she even
Mhm.
was holding her mom's purse while her mother was at the counter talking to me and doing what she needed to do to get the benefits that she needed. That image has never left my mind, because
Mhm.
that little girl was so stoic. And and now you just said there's a word for parentified, where
Mhm.
she knew, I have to take care of my brothers while
Yeah.
mommy is here taking care of the business, for the family. It just, what you've been saying for the last couple minutes reminded me and brought that
Mhm.
image back to my mind. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of those examples where, I mean, it's just a snapshot of their lives, but
Mhm. Right.
parenthood is a weight and it's hard for adults to take
Yeah.
on. And so the idea of a
Mhm.
7-year-old having
Mhm.
that responsibility or feeling that strong sense of duty, um, is both a beautiful thing of like, wow, like how loving, um, how mature and responsible of you to step
Mhm.
into this and to hold so tightly to your brothers and to make sure that they're okay and to help mom, but also we know that that is a weight that a 7-year-old is not meant to hold on to too
Mhm.
tightly.
Mhm.
um,
Yeah. And I completely understand why, mom had to rely on baby girl to do that for her. I completely understand why.
yeah.
Glad you said what you said about this is not blaming and shaming mom. It-
Hmm.
It's just realizing that we can love our mothers, we can respect our mothers, and we can still choose a different direction for
Hmm.
our own lives. And I want to make sure that people know how to connect with you, so that when they're ready to begin the healing work of choosing a different direction, or even just acknowledging and looking at some of the habits and the traits that they have, that they're realizing they inherited from their mom, but they're not really working for them. How can
Hmm.
people connect with you to possibly, become one of your clients
Yeah.
and your services?
Yeah, so I have a website at
Mhm,
counselingcontext.com.
mhm,
And on there, I do free phone consultations, a 20-minute conversation just to make sure we're a good fit. And
mhm.
so there's an online scheduler on my website where we can connect there and yeah, and just get to know each other and see if working together makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I want to give you the last word,
Mhm.
in these final 7 minutes that we have of the show. What do you want to say to women who might be watching right now, who heard their own stories in this conversation tonight,
Mm.
and they're not sure how to have that loving conversation with themselves about
Mhm.
where they are and why they show up in the world the way they do? They just know that something is off. What
Yeah.
do you want to say to them?
I would say, just to be patient with yourself and
Mhm,
to recognize how a lot of what you're going through is just a part of being human.
mhm.
Um, Once again, I know I probably sound like a broken record, but a lot of this stuff starts when we're so young
Yeah,
that we have to have some compassion that we were born into something, into situations, into societies, into a historical context, right, where we didn't have a whole lot of choice and agency then. But what a gift it is to even be at a place in your life where you can say, I'm actually not comfortable with the way things are going. I
yeah.
actually want better for myself. I'm
Mhm,
actually curious about what could be different. Like,
mhm.
what a gift it is to be in a place where you can actually reflect on that and start to make moves towards getting closer to what you actually envision for yourself. Um, So I would say take it as an invitation, take it as an opportunity. Um, there's this thing called the cycle of change where before a change can happen, we need to first contemplate that there's something different that's possible and that we
Mhm.
want for ourselves. And only once we get through that do we start preparing for change, do we start acting for change and maintaining that new thing that we've created for ourselves. So yeah, so just be patient and just see it as a sign that I'm getting closer to this new version of me or this new life that I get to develop now that I'm asking these big questions.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I want to add to, if you haven't had that eye-opening conversation with your mother, and it's still possible for you to do that,
Mhm.
if your mother is willing, I highly and strongly encourage you to just sit down and have a conversation with your mom and ask her, if she feels comfortable telling you about her life, telling you her life story. You might find out some information that um, can heal maybe a rift that you have in your relationship with your mom. Or you might find out that, she doesn't really have anything life changing to share, but she wants to share her life story anyway. I'm so glad that I did that with my own mother because now our relationship is better than I ever thought it could be. My mom will be 78 in July, and I'm
Mhm.
so thankful to still have her here with me. And now we're both healed.
Yeah.
So now we can operate from a place of authenticity in our relationship, and there's no grudges being held. There's no anger being held on to. There's no resentment. We just love each other. And I have her whole face, so it helps that I love her.
Mhm.
She
Mhm.
hijacked. I have her whole face. I have
Yeah.
most of her mannerisms too. So I'm just thankful that we were able to heal some of that, some of the angst that we had in our own relationship. There were some things that we needed to let go of. There were some things that we needed to apologize to each other about. There was some forgiveness work that had to be done between the two of us to heal
Mhm.
our relationship. And I'm thankful that I was able to do that while she's still here with me. So if you are a woman watching who you might be saying to yourself, you know what, I see myself in this conversation, and I kind of need to talk to my mom, but I'm not sure how. I think I need some help navigating that. But before I do, I want to have a conversation with myself, and I need help with that too. I encourage you to reach out to Dee Dee and just do the 20-minute phone conversation, the consultation.
Mhm.
See if the two of you can work together, if you're a good fit for that, so you can begin the process of healing. And like Dee Dee said, it's okay now. It's okay.
Mhm.
You're a grown up now, and you can start making decisions about your own mental and emotional health to put you on the pathway to healing. You can do that now. It's okay.
Mhm.
Yes. Well, thank you again, De Hevelin.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Hevelin. Ooh, I can't wait to call you Dr. Dee Dee. That's just, yeah, I can't wait
Soon, soon.
for that. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for being with us tonight on the Girl Talk Sunday podcast. I appreciate you. And if I need you again, I'm going to reach out. You may or may not be available,
absolutely.
but I'm going to reach out anyway.
Yes, please do. Please do.
All right. You take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Good night. All right, everybody. That is our show for tonight. I love having these kinds of conversations with Dee Dee because her approach to health and wellness from a mental and emotional standpoint is so practical. And because it's practical, it's a little bit easier to apply it to your life. And I love that she's so young, but she has a resume like no other. She has the education, the expertise, the knowledge to back up everything that she shared with us today and more. And so again, I encourage you to reach out to her at counselingcontext.com, schedule that 20-minute consultation and just see if the two of you can work together to get you on the road of healing in your own life. It's okay now. It's all right. You can advocate for yourself, for your own mental and emotional health. You can do that for yourself. And nobody has to know that you're doing it. You can just go ahead and do what you need to do to begin to start feeling whole mentally, physically, spiritually. It can be done. It is possible. And I know this because I've been there. I'm not talking about something I heard. I am talking about what I know. All right. I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight on the Girl Talk Sunday podcast. I will see you again in April. I'll see you in April. I'm not going to say who's coming, but you'll know in a couple weeks. All right. Thank you again. God bless you. God bless you. Good night.